Thank you so much for sharing your stories and that all these amazing songs. So that song that you just played, you're referencing all of these places, and they stood out in your mind. Probably some of them stood out a lot more than others. When you're playing as a professional musician for as long as you had and you're going into these venues, what makes the memorable venues, the places that stick out the most, what makes them more special than the others? Is there a common thread?
That's a really good question. And I'm going to say no. There's not a good common thread. It's different things. I'll tell you, some nights it may be the sound. Some nights the sound in the room is so good that it's effortless for me to play. And I feel like I'm just sort of floating along, and those nights, I always remember those nights. And then there are nights when the sound is sometimes horrible, but the crowd is so wonderful that they won't let it be a bad night, and they will make me rise above it, and we manage to have a wonderful evening in spite of the bad sound. And then that's another memory, you know. And then there are those. I've got several memorable nights when I thought I was too sick to play. You get out on the road, and man, you're in an old nasty hotel, and it's time to go. The people are waiting for you, and you just don't think you can do it. And then somehow, when you get up on that stage and you start feeding off of the folks, and it happens time after time after time. I feel like Superman. I feel like nothing is wrong, nothing can harm me, and I feel great for about 2.5 hours or so, as long as I play, and I feel good, and then I go back to that hotel room and I feel like hell again. But the moments I'm on that stage, I've played through toothaches. I've played through even broken limbs, all kinds of stuff. But once I start playing, it's the greatest medicine I could ever imagine. And I got several great memories of nights like that the music has carried me through. Thanks. That's a great question.
Just so you know, Jeremy owns a venue here in town. He's the owner of Pint and Plow, which is our favorite little brewery.
Oh,
and
cool.
He hosts live music. So
well, maybe I'll get to come play there sometime. And maybe I won't be sick.
Maybe you'll have a good time.
I'm sure I would.
Does anyone else have a question before we move on? Okay.
Yeah.
What might be one of the more important things you learned from Guy Clark? Most relevant things that you carried on in your life?
Okay, so I'm going to repeat your question so we can make sure you get it in the context of the tape.
Oh yeah, we need it
He
on.
asked about what was the most most relevant thing that you learned from Guy Clark. Wow, that's a hard question.
That is hard. God changed my whole. He changed my whole. What am I trying to say? He changed what I thought was even possible with music. You know, I knew you could go out and make some money and you could maybe be a star or something, but I had never really thought about the idea of living it every day. And I watched Guy live it. When I say live it, I mean he lived the life of a writer, a creator, a performer, a traveler, and the more he did it, the better he got, and the more people loved him, and his art got better, the crowds got better, and it was just it was a beautiful thing to realize that I don't have to worry about anything ever again. That's how I felt. It was a revelation, really, that this is what I'm going to do from now until I die. I'm not going to do this till I'm too old for radio, and then I'll fall off the radio charts, and then I'll have to sell real estate. That's not the way it goes. I will play this guitar, and I will write my songs, and I will crawl up on a stage just like Guy did, and I will play them until I can't get one out, and then that'll be the end of it. But it's such a burden lifted to realize that the rest of your life is planned out, and it's okay. It's going to be good. It's going to be fun, and all I have to do is show up.
Wow. That's a pretty insightful life experience that you gleaned from Guy. Amazing.
Yeah, and I don't even know if he was aware of that what he was doing, much less that he was teaching me. He was that's just what he did.
Yeah.
That's just what he did. I'm just Guy Clark. Guy built his own guitars, and people kept wanting him to sell his guitars, and he was like, I don't build them to sell. Then I'd be a guitar builder. And he made his own thumb picks. He cut part of his thumb off years ago with a saw, and so he built his own thumb picks that fit his thumb. And everybody was like, oh, Guy, you should patent those and mass market them. And Guy's comment was, then I'd be in the thumb pick business. He wasn't interested in anything but writing songs and taking them out there to the people. It was beautiful.
Did you ever write a song about Guy?
Yeah.
Would you mind playing it for us?
I'd love to. It's kind of long. It's not a short one.
Okay.
But it kind of has to be.
Well, I can understand that.
If y'all need to cut it out of the show, go ahead. But I hope I can get through this. At the end of Guy's days, he wouldn't quit. He just kept going, and literally he was crawling on these stages and just barely getting through it. But anyway, he kept going, and our last run together was a 12-night run. We started in Abilene, Texas, and we worked for 12 nights across Texas and wound up in Beaumont on the 12th night. It was a healthy man. I was spent, and I don't know how Guy even made it, but that night in Beaumont, I felt the wheels coming off, and I knew that was the last show with him, and I think he knew it too. We didn't say it to each other. We got in the car the next morning and drove 9 hours back to Nashville, and nobody said a word about it. When we got to the house, he always sat down at the kitchen table, and he would write me a check for the tour. And he got the checkbook out, and I said, Guy, I'm not going to take any more of your money. He said, what do you mean? I said, I'm not going to take any more of your money. He said, okay, yeah, I think you're right. And he grabbed the phone and he called our booking agent and he said, Keith, I'm done. Don't book me nothing else. And he hung up the phone, and suddenly I felt terrible. I thought, oh, did I just cause Guy Clark to end his career? And I started almost trembling, you know, thinking, well, this is it. And is this? And Guy, being Guy, got his tobacco and his papers, and he started rolling a cigarette the way he always did, and he tapped it on the table, and he got it perfect, and he cut both ends off so it looked like a store-bought cigarette. And he grabbed his old Bic lighter, and he leaned back, and he looked at me, and he said, now, let's recap. And for the next 2 hours, we sat and talked about what we had done over the last 25 years.
Wow.
We started when we were, well, let's see. We were young, looking like outlaws, waiting for a train to take us up to Oregon, a 2-week run of old saloons and dance halls. Every show we played was better than the last one. And you held your songs up to the light, and my harmonies got tight. You were playing strong and clean. We were a musical machine. It was the perfect side man's dream. 'Cause we were young and looking like outlaws, waiting for a train. For about 5 minutes, we were rock stars. We played the Hall of Fame. We even rode up in a limousine, and some young kid came out to carry our guitars. You looked at me and laughed when they showed us on the big screen. And outside, around the backstage door, like we'd never seen before, there were pretty girls galore and a couple of flat-out whores. But you said that ain't what we're here for. About 5 minutes, we were rock stars. We played the Hall of Fame. In the end, it caught us unrehearsed, between a chorus and a verse, between a blessing and a curse. Old friends and stuff that works, it went from good to bad to worse. And the wheels came off in Beaumont, Texas, maybe Abilene. Hell, they all run together. But just like that, all those years had passed us, and the long ride home seemed like it took forever, forever, forever. like outlaws waiting for a train. And for about 5 minutes we were rock stars. We played the Hall of Fame. And then the wheels came off in Beaumont, Texas, maybe Abilene. Sorry, it's a downer. I know it's a downer, but it was, you know,
That's powerful.
after he passed, I found myself in Austin alone to do a show without Guy, and it just felt so wrong. And I was sitting in a little Mexican joint. We never went to Austin unless we went to this Mexican place. And I'm sitting there, and I couldn't even enjoy it. So I went back to the Austin motel and sat down and sort of cried my way through that. And then I felt better afterwards, you know. So he never heard it or anything. I wish he could have, but.